I am a disciple of Jesus Christ. I won't look back.
But you've got unreconciled relationships. You're fighting. You need to break it up. And if you humble yourself and you break it up, He's going to lift you up in honor.
MPPA in the LBK. MPPA in the
Welcome to Experience Life on this holiday weekend. I want to also welcome those of you watching at church online or one of our other West Texas campuses. We're glad you guys are with us as well. And I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. I know I had a great Thanksgiving. I love this holiday. Like even going back as a kid, I loved Thanksgiving. I would rank it even ahead of Christmas. I don't know what it is about it. I love it. You know, it's kind of one of those lifelong traditions of food and family and watching the Cowboys lose. It's not funny. It's still tender and raw in here, okay? So let's be nice. But it really is all about family, man. I love hanging out with my family. And the cool thing about family is all of our experiences with our families are completely different. It doesn't matter who you are and what your experience is. It's different than the person probably sitting next to you. But there are a few facts about family that I think are pretty universal. I call them family facts. And I'm going to look at a couple here as we start things off. First of all, family fact number one, when it comes to family, you didn't have any choice in the matter, right? You don't get to choose your family. It's one of those, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit kind of things, right? You're basically born. You look around the room and you're like, well, I guess this is it, you know? This is what I'm stuck with. Family fact number two, no one you're related to is as smart as you. Anybody relate to that one? You're the smartest one in your family. There's some smart people here in the front row, that's good. And the older my kids get, I think this sets in right around 12 years old. It dawns on you, you know, I'm the smartest person in this room. And that's just how you live your life. Family fact number three, every family is weird in their own special way. Is your family weird? It's weird. Your family's weird. My family, believe it or not, is a little bit weird. And I brought some visual proof. You know, my family, we get together, we hang out, we like to have fun, and we like to just dress up in weird ways for no apparent reason. You know, sometimes we dress like it's 1970. And I wish there was time to study this picture. There's a lot of weird things that I wouldn't possibly be able to explain. But sometimes we dress like it's the 80s. On this one, I went all out with the mustache, so props to me for that. I apparently drooled down my shirt. I don't know what happened there. Sometimes we dress, I don't even know what to say about this one, actually. We dress, they were like old prom. I don't know what, I can't explain it. Sometimes we like to wear mustaches. Just for no reason, and we like to take pictures of ourselves. But my family is weird. Your family is weird. All our families are a little bit off, right? Any of you guys have drama at your family get-togethers? Any drama? Like it looks more like a Jerry Springer episode than it does Thanksgiving? I know you're out there. And the cool thing is about broken families, you see the same thing when you look at the Bible. The Bible is full of families that are messed up. In fact, the very first recorded homicide happened in the Old Testament, book of Genesis. Look it up. Like the very first family, Adam and Eve's family, you had one brother killing another brother. Hopefully that didn't happen at your Thanksgiving, but it happens, right? The next thing, the very first civil war, the nation of Israel. You can look that up in the Old Testament. You had David going to war against his son. They're trying to kill each other. Okay, their family had some issues. And this is my favorite one. I call it, where's Jesus? Okay, the family. You have Mary and Joseph. They have little Jesus with them. He's like 12 years old. They go to the temple and they lose track of him, right? Where's Jesus? I thought he was with you. No, I thought he was with you. They don't know where Jesus is. Okay, here's parenting 101. If your kid is the son of God, you might want to keep up with them when you go to the mall, right? Maybe get one of those kid leashes you can strap to his waist so he can't wander off too far. But our families, if we're looking at them and being honest, our families are not perfect. And no matter who you talk to, no matter what your experience was with your family, maybe you have a great family. Maybe your family experience isn't so great. We all have things we can learn from. And the people I talk to, that's what they'll say, man. I had a great upbringing, but there's some things that I wish my parents would have done different. And I'm trying to correct those things. I'm trying to improve for my family's experience, because the family is the foundation of our society. If you look around our country and all the problems and just the upheaval and the social issues and everything going on, the breakdown in our society, I think can be traced back to the breakdown in our families. Families are so very important. I want to read you a quote from Outreach magazine talking about families. He says, "The future of America is not in the heart of youth. That's a fallacy. The future of America is in the heart of parents who are raising those youths. That's where the future is." So we promote the strength of families because that's where kids learn their identity. That's where men discover significance and women their security. When you have a healthy family, it doesn't matter where they are in society, they'll thrive. It's all about the family, and it's all about the parents that are raising the kids. So if you're a parent in the room today, I'm going to be talking to you today. Whether you're a parent now or you're going to be a parent later, maybe you're a grandparent, this is going to be for you. Hopefully you find it helpful, because as parents, we have an extraordinary weight on our shoulders, right? I mean, think about it. We're raising little us's, right? We're trying to make them something. Look at this. I came up with a little list of responsibilities as parents. We have to raise them. We have to keep them alive. We have to protect them and feed them and clothe them. Make sure they get an education. We have to discipline them so they become productive members of society, right? We need a little bit more of that. Teach them maybe how to throw a curveball or a spiral or something. But most importantly, teach them to be fans of the Cowboys, Spurs, and everything Texas Tech, right? Thank you. You could leave off the Cowboys if you want, okay? But these other two are, yeah. So these things are important, right? These are things as parents we have to do. But there's one that outweighs all of them. That's the most important job that we have, and it's this. And I hope that we get this today. As parents, the most important thing we can do for our kids is to introduce them to Jesus. That's it. That is our most important responsibility as Christian parents, to introduce our kids to Jesus. And I want to invite you for a second just to gain some perspective with your situation. I like to do this when talking about this sort of thing, because it's easy for us with our lives and our responsibilities and our schedules and everything our kids have going on and running them all over town. It's easy to get kind of lost in the forest kind of thing. You can't see the forest for the trees. So I want to invite you to zoom out to 30,000 feet and just look at your life and your family's life from God's point of view, in view of just eternity and the fact that eternity is forever. And our life on this earth is so short. Our time with our kids is so short. And we have all of these things to worry about with our schedules and everything. We have, practices and all kinds of different sports and school and UIL stuff and music lessons, and everything kind of gets lost in the shuffle. I want to ask you, what's really important when it comes to your kids' life and, more importantly, your kids' eternity? What's most important? It's Jesus. It's introducing them to Jesus. That's the most important thing that we can do for our kids. All they need is Jesus. We're going to be in Acts chapter 16 if you have a Bible. If you don't have a Bible, we have at all our campuses in the lobby, we have some free ones you can pick up. We're going to be Acts chapter 16, and just to set the scene here, you have Paul and Silas who are going around preaching, and they get in trouble and they get beat up really bad, thrown in jail, and they're in shackles. And we kind of pick this up in verse 25 here. It says, around midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. Of course they were, right? They just got beaten up and thrown in jail. They were singing songs to God. And the other prisoners were listening. Suddenly, there was a massive earthquake, and the prison was shaken to its foundations. All the doors immediately flew open, and the chains of every prisoner fell off. The jailer woke up to see the prison doors wide open. He assumed the prisoners had escaped, so he drew his sword to kill himself. But Paul shouted to him, "Stop! Don't kill yourself. We're all here." The jailer called for lights and ran to the dungeon and fell down trembling before Paul and Silas. Then he brought them out and asked, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" They replied, "Believe in the Lord Jesus, and you will be saved, along with everyone in your household." And they shared the word of the Lord with him and with all who lived in his household. Even at that hour of the night, the jailer cared for them, washed their wounds. Then he and everyone in his household were immediately baptized. He brought them into his house, set a meal before them, and he and his entire household rejoiced because they all believed in God. What a beautiful story that is. See, the jailer brought his entire household to Paul and Silas. They all believed. They were all baptized. And they all ate together, threw a party afterwards. He brought them to Jesus. And again, as parents, that is our most crucial responsibility. And I think a lot of times parents want to leave this part of it to the church, right? I've heard this a lot in the past few years. I need to get back in church because we have, the kids need to be in church, that kind of thing. And that's great, right? It's good to get our kids in church and get them exposed to that. But my question for you is, what are you doing at home? What are you doing between Sundays? What are you living out at home? Because it's our responsibility as parents, and specifically men in the room, guys, fathers, and husbands. We have been specifically and uniquely tasked with the responsibility of leading our family spiritually. And from my own experience as a dad and as a husband, and guys I've been in groups with and talked to, this is a difficult thing. A lot of us fall short here. I want to read you a quote from a book called The Real Win. It's by Matt Carter. It's just a men's book. If you're a guy and you want something that's going to be challenging to you, I'd encourage you to pick it up. It's called The Real Win. This is Matt talking about our responsibility as men. He says, "Men, this is our responsibility. At church, we've got a pastor looking out for our family's spiritual well-being. But at home, we need to make sure that our wife and kids are growing toward Christ all the time. In effect, we are the pastors at home. Would it be easier just to let this slide? Sure. But that's oh man, I don't like this part. That's a loser move. I read this, man, and it just hurt my feelings in the worst way. It's easier to let it slide. And I think that's what we tend to do if we're not careful. And so before you feel super deflated and super, inadequate, let me just tell you, there are no perfect families. There's no perfect people allowed to experience life. We talk about that all the time. There's no perfect parents either. There's no perfect dads in the room. You have ideal, and then you have real, right? You have ideal, something we're all shooting towards, but then there's reality, and there's kind of a gap in between. And my question for you today is, what are you going to do today? What are you going to do today to try to fill that gap? We're not going to be perfect, but we can't shake the fact that it's our responsibility to be bringing our families to Jesus. Now, the good news is at Experience Life, we want to partner with you and your family to do that very thing, to bring your families to Jesus. It's your responsibility, but we want to help you in that. That's what we're here for. And so I want to give you a few just practical ways that you can be leading your kids towards Jesus. And so if you have a pen, you can write these down. And maybe you just need some way to start the conversation. I'm going to give you a few of those. First of all, if you have younger kids, if your kids are elementary age, here's a couple of things that you can do. Have them go through our Kid Faith class. This is a perfect first step for that youngster in your house. Our Kid Faith class is amazing, man. It's interactive. It's with parents and kids. It gives them a basic, easy to understand explanation for what it means to follow Jesus, and in ways that they can really comprehend it. And they get sent home with some curriculum, and you don't have to think of everything you have to say just right to explain everything you need to explain to your kids about how to commit your life to Christ. It's all there for you. You can have an easy conversation with them, but it's great. You can go on our website, our eKids page, and sign them up for that if you want to do that. But I would highly encourage this. Also, there's a thing called the Jesus Storybook Bible. Clayton talks about it a lot. My kids love it. It's got a lot of pictures and just takes Bible stories and presents them in a way that kids are really interested. My boys ask for it on a consistent, hey, can we read the Bible tonight? It's that good. There's also, if you have the YouVersion app, if you have that Bible app on your phone, it's got some interactive kind of video teaching for a few different Bible stories that they can touch on the screen and interact with the story. They love that as well. And also, if you were at church today, one of our campuses, you probably heard your campus pastor announce our Jingle Jam event. Man, go to that. If you have kids, again, this gives you kind of an insight into what they do every week in our kids programming. It's going to be very interactive, like a full-on production for parents and kids, just to kind of start that conversation, start that spiritual conversation between you and your kids. Now, if you have older kids, maybe they're middle school, high school age, it's not too late. Man, get them involved in our youth group. If you didn't know, our youth group is amazing. Like, I've never seen anything like it, and I've been around church my entire life. But our youth leaders, Parker and Kayla, and all the other ones, man, they do an amazing job leading our kids through all the things that they deal with on a daily basis in school and among their friends and everything else. And it's not just a get together and hang out thing once a week. They are really teaching our kids to follow Jesus. 3 of the 4 weeks every month is just what we call a DBS. A DBS is just a Bible study. They're teaching them to read the Bible, ask themselves questions about, what does this chapter teach me about God? What does it teach me about me? And what do I need to change based on what I've learned? I mean, teaching them to read the Bible, understand it, and apply it to their lives, it doesn't get any better than that. In fact, you can do this thing with your kids at home. Just read a chapter out loud and answer those questions. Man, it's a great way to make sure your kid is really learning what it means, not to just obey some rules, not to be a Christian, but to follow Jesus and to apply his word to their lives. And this is the last one, probably the most important. Live a life with Jesus right in front of them, right in front of your kids. Make sure that you're living a life for Jesus where they can see it. Man, let them catch you reading your Bible. Let them catch you praying. Your kid ought to be able to look at you and know exactly what it means to follow Jesus with all your heart. And so if you look at your life honestly, can you say that? What are you living out at home? You might have heard this saying before, but a kid might forget what you say, but they'll never forget what you do. What are you living out in front of them? And see, this is kind of where the rub is for a lot of us. Like, this is where it gets difficult to hear because you realize there's a problem there. I think for some of you, you're realizing it's a major problem because you can't lead your kids somewhere that you haven't been. Maybe there's never been a time that you committed your life to Jesus and started that relationship with him. Because that's exactly what it is. It's a relationship. It's not rules. It's not making sure your family's in church, It's a relationship. We talked about no perfect parents. None of us are perfect. We're all flawed. We have sin in our life. God is a perfect God. Heaven's a perfect place. We have a problem there. That's why Jesus came. He came, he lived that perfect life that we're incapable of living. And he died a death on a cross that was meant for us so that he could pay the penalty for our sin. And now we have a way to trust in Jesus for what he did on the cross for us, to have our sins forgiven. We can be reconciled with Jesus. We can be adopted into his family. spend eternity with him in heaven? Do you need to make that decision today? Because if you do, I want to encourage you, don't waste another second of your life without him. You need to commit your life to Jesus for you, obviously, because you want his best in your life now here on earth. Be following him. His plans for you are better than your own. And you want a relationship with Jesus because one day you'll spend eternity in heaven and miss out on the punishment of hell. But even beyond that, think about this. You committing your life to Jesus, having a relationship with him, is the greatest gift you can give to your family and to your kids. Because you can't be the kind of husband you need to be without him. You can't be the kind of wife you need to be without him. You can't be the kind of parent you need to be without Jesus in your life. It's not that you can't love them without him, but you can't love them the right way unless you love him first. That's when all your priorities fall into line. And you can really lead your family towards Jesus as you follow him. And you may be thinking, man, it's too late for me. I've made too many mistakes as a parent, as a spouse. And I'm here to tell you it's not too late. As long as there's still breath in your lungs, it's not too late. Man, let your kids see you be broken for the mistakes that you made. Let your kids see you turn towards Jesus and strive to do things his way. Those lessons will be priceless for them. But it starts with you setting the example of following Jesus. If you're making that decision today, like I said before, we want to partner with you in that. We want to help you grow in your relationship with him. But we need to know about your decision, so we'll give you a connection card in your chair. One of the options on the back says, I'm committing my life to Christ. Just check that box. You can drop it in the offering box on the way out if you want, but you could also bring it to the Next Step Center. At all of our campuses, there's people there that'll answer questions, talk about next steps in your relationship with him, give you a Bible. We want to partner with you as you grow in your relationship with him and you lead your family to do the same. You know, I officiated a funeral not too long ago, and funerals have that way of giving you perspective, you know. Like for me anyway, it makes me think about just how short life is. It makes me think about my funeral. What do I want my kids to say? What do I want them to remember about me? Ask yourself that. If you want to put things into perspective. Do I really want them struggling for things to say, you know, as I'm laid out in the box there in front of them? Do I want them to say, well, you know, he got me to practice on time and he provided, I never went without anything? Or do I want them to remember me for the fact that I led them to Jesus? Do I want them to say, you know, Dad showed me what it was like to be a man after God's heart. Dad showed me what it was like to live a life that wasn't just based on Christian rules, but really following Jesus with his whole heart. That's what I want to be remembered for. And here's the cool thing about it, guys. If you think about our kids, the scary thing is they spend most of their lives outside of our care, outside of our house. We have such a short time with them. How are we using that time? And if I can make sure somehow, do everything that I can, and I know, kids, there's some strong-willed ones and they'll do their own thing, but if I can do my part as a parent to make sure that they leave my house in love with Jesus, what more could I ask for? You think about all the things we have to worry about as a parent, worrying, are they going to go to the right college? Are they going to have the right major? Are they going to date the right person? Are they going to marry the right person? If I know that they are following Jesus with everything they have and they are at the center of his will for their lives, I don't have to worry about the details. He's pretty good at those details. If I know my kid is in the center of God's will, man, what else can I ask for as a parent? He loves them more than I do. My oldest kid, her name is Taylor. She's 12, going on 13, so things are about to get interesting in my house. 5 years ago, we put her through the Kid Faith class. We talked about that a little bit ago. We signed her up for Kid Faith. She went through it. She came home with these papers, and I remember like it was yesterday, we sat at the kitchen table, and I got to talk to her about what it means to commit your life to Christ. I got to lead her into asking him to be Lord of her life. And about 1.5 years ago, I got to baptize her. The single greatest honor of my life. Guys, we want to see every single one of you get to experience this same thing. And she's amazing. And I say this as no credit to me, probably more so her mom, but she's amazing. We've seen her in these past few years just grow into this amazing little fireball of a Christ follower. She's has this heart for people that are broken and down and out. She's kind of a defender of the weak, just there's something in her. We see her volunteer on the weekends and the elementary classes leading worship for the kids. We didn't push her into that. She volunteers at youth events. She volunteers at Tuesday night prayer with the babies, with her mom. We have youth leaders coming to us and saying, man, Taylor, whatever you're doing with her, keep doing it because it's working, And Jennifer and I had this conversation like, what are we doing, Because maybe we need to figure that out, and apply it to the other two, and maybe we've stumbled into something here. But I think what it boils down to is we introduced her to Jesus. And yeah, we've tried to live it out in front of her, but we haven't been perfect with that. We try to help her grow in that relationship, but we mess that up. We're not consistent enough. We make mistakes. But we introduced her to Jesus. We've done what we know how to do to try to encourage her to grow in that. And guess what? He is great at taking care of those details. There's ideal and there's real. There's a gap in between. My question for you is, what are you going to do today to lead your families towards Jesus? Would you pray with me? God, I know this is heavy, something we don't like to think about a lot, but I pray that just in these next few moments that you would just solidify in our hearts our next step and just give us a resolve to want to be part of leading our kids towards him. God, give us that desire between Sundays to live it out in front of them. We're not perfect, and we're going to make mistakes, but God, I want to try. I want to try, and we'll leave the rest up to you. We love you, God, in your name. Amen.
Thanks for checking out one of our messages today. For more information about our church or to watch other messages, you can go to our website at experiencelifenow.com. Let us know if we can serve you in any way, and we hope to see you real soon.